hold the presses. The Bob's Burgers movie is actually coming out in theaters, and it's not getting delayed a second time. Oh, all right. No, I didn't do a good Linda. Let me try that again. Hold on. No, don't cut away. What's going on, everyone? James here with another real review, and today, yes, we're talking all about the Bob's Burgers movie. A huge thank you to 20th Century Studios for giving me the chance to watch this early for review in theaters. It hits theaters actually May 27th, so when you see it, let me know down below what you thought of it. Are you a fan of the show? And if you're not, did it still work for you? Now, this is a movie I've been anticipating for the last couple of years now because my girlfriend and I are huge fans of the show, so we were so excited to finally hear that this film is sticking to a date. Now, it is directed by Loren, Bouchard, who created Bob's Burgers, and according to IMDb, never directed an episode of the show, so interesting to see him directing the movie, but he's also co-directing it with Bernard Derriman, who has directed several episodes of the show. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what the movie's about without spoiling it, let's talk about it. It's summertime for the Belcher family. The kids are almost out of school, and nothing can go wrong, right? Wrong, because a ruptured water main creates an enormous sinkhole right in front of Bob's Burgers, which leads Bob and Linda to wonder how they're going to pay their rent. While they're struggling to keep their business afloat, the kids actually are solving a murder that could save their family's restaurant. So there's a little bit of comedy, a little bit of mystery, a little bit of whodunit in this one, but yes, that's the basis of the plot itself. Now, before we get into the positives and the negatives that I have for this film, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about movies like this. So if you do too, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on the bell, and hit the thumbs up button again if you're a fan of Bob's Burgers, and let me know down below which character is your favorite. I'm gonna probably go with Tina or Louise, but there's one in there that stole this entire movie. We'll get there soon. So let's go ahead and get started with the positives, and it starts right at the top with, if you're a fan of this movie, guys, it's for you. There are so many elements from the show that translated well to the film, and I absolutely love that. It does feel like a very good episode of Bob's Burgers too, more often than not. And they even dove into some characters and their origin stories and how certain things happen in the show that weren't explained in the show, so it was really cool to get some more depth to our family here that we honestly haven't gotten before. And there are plenty of deep cuts in here that only fans will recognize. I found myself to be one of the few critics in there that were laughing so hard at some of these references, but it does cater well to those who have followed the series. And as someone who thinks that Bob's Burgers is much better than Family Guy, American Dad, and even The Simpsons, I know, that might be sacrilegious, I thought the animation in the show was pretty darn good, but in the movie it feels a little bit cleaner, more refined, and yes, they add some shadows, so I thought the animation for the most part looked really darn good and at times even beautiful. But for me, what makes Bob's Burgers so great is the smart humor, and I found myself laughing out loud several times in this movie. The humor is definitely going to be familiar for fans, but even non-fans, I heard some laughs in our screening, so it's not going to be totally inaccessible, but we'll talk about a little bit of that later on in this review. However, there is one standout. I know I just mentioned that there is one character that stole the show for me, and that is Gene. Eugene Mirman actually voices Gene, and I thought he did an excellent job. There were so many moments where Gene was the character to either break the ice or to get us out of a funk that the movie was in. However, the main crew was really good as well. You have H. Jon Benjamin as Bob, Kristen Schaal as Louise, and we do learn a little bit about her bunny ears hat, which is really cool. I'm not talking any more about it because it is kind of a spoiler, but just know that it happens and it's pretty darn effective. And then you have Dan Mintz as Tina, who I loved in this, and there are some moments with Jimmy Jr. that just really worked for me, and it somehow didn't get a reaction to anyone else, but that's maybe because I heard some critics there say they actually don't follow the show, so it kind of speaks to why they didn't find it too funny, but for me, I really enjoyed it. And then you have John Roberts as Linda, who continues to do the most consistent job in this movie. I mean, he is just so darn consistent as Linda, and there's even this scene where they're at the pier, and it just, oh gosh, it just really had me cracking up. And from a writing standpoint, I did appreciate that the movie gave each main character a subplot of their own, whether it be Louise proving she's not a baby to her friends and classmates, and Bob and Linda possibly losing their restaurant. It really just added these fun elements to the movie when it was needed. And some of my favorite supporting characters from the series did a pretty good job in the film also, like Calvin Fishoder, who's played by Kevin Kline, and you have Teddy, who's voiced by Larry Murphy. And Teddy, for me, is one of those obscure characters who has some stupid moments, but also they're really funny, and it's like double that here in the film. Goodness, there's a scene with this cart that he builds for the Belcher family that just had me like really keeling over. I was laughing so hard. And one thing I didn't expect about this movie going into it was the amount of musical numbers. Now, a couple of them really worked for me. You can tell there's that influence if you are a fan of Central Park, a show that Loren Bouchard is also very heavily involved in. He brings that sort of style and influence here, but I thought the musical numbers for the most part were pretty solid, with the exception of 2 others. But we'll talk about that now. So guys, let's get right into the negatives and what I thought didn't work too well with the Bob's Burgers movie. And yeah, it starts with that last positive I talked about, the musicals. If I'm remembering correctly, there were 4. The first one I liked, and even I enjoyed the last musical number in this, but there's a couple in this film that just go on for far too long and really make the film kind of stop in its tracks, so it loses a lot of momentum. And honestly, some of these musical numbers were just not that funny. I mean, I get why they had them included here because Linda on the show has a number at the end credits of almost every episode, but I think it was laid on a little too thick in the film. The movie is 1 hour and 45 minutes, guys, and I'll be honest, I just don't think the story is strong enough to sustain the entire runtime. So let's get into this next negative I have, which is, yeah, the story itself is a little too thin. Once we get into the third act, I thought that the film was really losing a lot of steam. I did appreciate directors Loren Bouchard and Bernard Derriman deciding to go with a bit of a mystery story here with the Belcher family at the center of it all, but I wish the movie were about maybe 20 minutes shorter. There were so many scenes where I thought the film was just kind of chugging along and dragging at the end, and as much as I enjoyed Zach Galifianakis as Felix Fischoeder in the series, in the movie, him and his cousin / lawyer, they have the worst scenes, especially in the second half of this movie. There is a scene with one of the Fischoeder family members that just really took me out of the film, and it kind of made me check my watch a little bit. But overall, you guys, when it comes to the Bob's Burgers movie, as a fan of the series itself, I enjoyed this one. I laughed hard and I laughed often in this movie, all things considered. The Belcher family is aces, the voice cast is so darn solid, and I thought that the animation looked really good. The only thing that doesn't work in this movie's favor are 2 things. One, the story itself, of course, feeling very long, dragging at the end, and not having a lot of momentum really to carry you through a movie that is over 1.5 hours long. And then the second thing is, if you're not a fan of this show, I don't think it's going to be as accessible for you. So the movie itself is going to be for the fans, which I'm not complaining about, but it doesn't necessarily cater well to general audience. At least I don't think it will. If this movie were about 20 minutes shorter and had some musical numbers that were eliminated or shortened, I think we would have had a great Bob's Burgers animated movie. But instead, it is just pretty darn good, you know? And honestly, I have to say I enjoyed my time with it. It is going to be something that as a fan I'm going to revisit and watch again, most likely with my girlfriend. And yeah, I laughed, had a good time, and it's everything I wanted from this movie. So there you have it, you guys. That's my real review of the Bob's Burgers movie. It's not great, but it is really solid, especially as someone who is a fan of the show. But when you see it in theaters May 27th, let me know down below in the comments what you thought of this movie. And hey, if you haven't already, hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel for more reviews like this. We're breaking down some, can I say that? Hold on, Netflix, can I talk about this? Probably not, but just know it's about to get a little strange on the channel. Guys, again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. And now I want a burger. Darn it, every time I watch Bob's Burger, I just want a burger. I'm going to Shake Shack.